Are you ready? Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brand Your Passion. In this week's episode, I want to talk to you about what is included in a brand strategy and what you should have in that document. Because I know that in past episodes, we have talked about what brand strategy is, what the heck is it all about, like why should you be using brand strategy? Why is it important? Why is it something that you need to think about? We've covered all that, but now we need to talk about what actually goes into that document and what you need to be included. Are you ready? Let's do it. My main thing about brand strategy documents is that it really doesn't have to be long. I've seen a lot of people, and I've already broken this myth on my Instagram because it grinds my gears. I have heard a lot of people brag about how long their brand strategy documents are and put out this expectation or this feeling or opinion that the longer the brand strategy, the better, and the more pages that it has, the more impressive it is, and blah, 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 on and on. I 100% disagree with that. I am of the opinion that brand strategy documents, along with anything that you use for your brand, needs to be useful first and foremost. So it needs to be really practical and useful for you or anybody else who's going to be using it to actually use. So that means that if your brand strategy document is 100 pages long, nobody is ever going to want to read 100 pages about your brand, especially if it's like quite technical or goes into technical or complicated things about your brand. No, we don't need 100 pages of that. So I think that the shorter, more concise, effective, and efficient your brand strategy is, the better. If you're thinking, okay, I need a brand strategy, but I'm a little bit overwhelmed because I feel like I need to be talking for 100 pages about my brand, do not worry. You don't need to do that. It can be a short PDF document, or it doesn't even have to be a PDF. You can host it in something like Notion, Google Drive, or Trello, or wherever it is that works best for you. This document can really just be efficient and effective and to the point. That's my disclaimer about brand strategies, is that let's go for short, effective, and efficient instead of long, waffly, and pointless. Can you tell I have some opinions? That's kind of the disclaimer, but let's talk about, okay, if we're going to keep it short and efficient, what are the main things that we need to cover in this document? If you have heard me talk before about my Make Your Mark model, basically brand strategy covers the first like 1 to 3 steps in my model, and it's all about clarity, right? Those 3 steps are uncovering your identity, pinpointing your people, and finding your voice. And then we move into defining your vibe, boosting your brand, and all those things are all about actually putting your brand into action. So we're going to focus on the brand strategy side of things, clarity side of things, which is those 3 steps, the first 3 steps. So that means that those are the 3 things that are going to be going into your brand strategy. The first one is your identity. This is where you are talking about everything that makes you and your brand unique and stand out from the crowd, right? You're talking about your vision, your values, your purpose, story, everything that makes you unique in terms of your messaging, everything that goes behind your brand, everything that's underneath the colors and the fonts and all of that stuff. So that's what goes into the identity portion of things. It's all about who are you and why are you doing what you're doing and what is it that you're doing. It's about all of those things that you want to communicate clearly to your audience. It's the why behind everything. Part number 2 is all about your people. So this is who, right? This is who are we talking to? What are they all about? And I've talked a lot in other places about what you should be thinking about in terms of who your people are. You don't need to worry about things like how old are they? How much money do they make? Where did they go to school? Those kinds of things. What you do need to worry about is who are these people and what is important to them? What are their needs? What are their struggles? What are their desires? What is their personality like? These things are all super important. And then once you've figured those things out, you can think about, okay, where do they hang out? Who else are they following? Who else is in my industry that they are connecting with and working with? How can I position myself for my audience in between those other people that they are working with or engaging with online? So that is your people. You want to include all those things, personality traits of your people, what are their struggles and their needs and their desires, where do they hang out, how do they interact with brands. All of these things are what you want to be thinking about when you are thinking about your people and what you should be including in your brand strategy. Step number 3 is thinking about your voice. So this is the third section that should be in your brand strategy. Your voice is all about how you speak. It's all about your personality and what you want to get across to your audience about you. So here you want to be thinking about your voice and your tones, the content that you're talking about, and the platforms that you're talking about them on. Those are the 4 elements of your voice that you need to be thinking about. You can also think about how you want your audience to feel when they interact with your voice, when they hear your voice. How do you want them to feel? How do you want them not to feel? Word bank, I like to call these like my Hollie-isms, or like Amy-isms, or Kate-isms, whatever your name is. So I would have a word bank of Hollie-isms that are unique to my brand. So these are words that I'm always going to use, or that I can pop into my copy to infuse a little bit of Hollie magic in there. You can also include things like your slogans and taglines, things that are parts of your copy that you're going to be using often and that are part of your brand voice. And then the last thing that you can think about is your vibe. So we covered those first 3 important parts of brand strategy, parts of your clarity. And so the last thing to think about is we're now moving into like the transition between brand strategy and creating your identity. And so you can start to think about the vibe of your brand. And that's thinking about things like the personality of your brand, the colors that evoke what you're trying to evoke, the fonts that might evoke that, putting in your mood board, showing the direction that your brand is going to go in and how that's going to convey what you want it to convey. Thinking about the direction and the vibe of your brand is something that's really cool to include towards the end of your brand strategy. So that was a quick overview, but I hope that it's given you an insight into what you should be including in your brand strategy document. So just to recap, it's the first 4 parts of my Make Your Mark model. So firstly, we have your identity, covering your identity and everything that makes you unique, the why behind what you're doing. Secondly is your people. We want to pinpoint your people and uncover who they are and what they're all about. That's the who of your brand strategy. Then we have your voice. This is how you speak and how you communicate and how you want your brand to come across. How are you going to communicate what your brand is? And then lastly is defining your vibe. And this is all about like the what of your brand. Okay, we've discovered why and who and how, but now let's talk about what we're actually going to do, what it's potentially going to look and feel like going forward. So I hope that's been really helpful. That is just an overview of what goes into brand strategy and what you should be including. As always, if you have any questions or you want to know any more, you can let me know in the comments, DM, or tag me on Twitter. However you want to communicate with me, that's fine. And if you are interested in going through this brand strategy process with me, have it done for you and get to go through the workshop process and then get this brand strategy document beautifully, wonderfully packaged and delivered to you, then you can click the link in the description, follow through and check it out, have a look at what's included and what the process looks like, and then you can sign up because I have a few more spots left before the end of the year. I would absolutely love to go through this process with you if you are interested in doing that. As always, I hope this has been super awesome. If it's been helpful, you know what to do. You can like this video, you can subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Instagram because it grinds my gears.